Welcome back to Winning Hand. My name is Boomguy, and I'm here with Andy. What's up, Andy?
Hey, how's it going?
So good. How are you?
Good, doing all right.
All right. You excited for today?
I am. I'm so excited. I'm excited for these decks. I'm excited for this topic. I think
Yeah.
this is going to be a great one.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are new here, this is like the sixth one in the series, but I will just recap quickly. This is a weekly series where Andy and I get together and we talk about decks on Marvel CDB that we think deserve a little more attention. There are, I feels like Marvel CDB is concentrated. There's like very few people, and those people are making their decks, and they're the ones that get seen the most often. And that's because they're great, and you know, kudos to them, not throwing shade at anyone's deck. But there's a ton of decks published that I feel like fly under the radar because they aren't, they're just not getting seen. And we're trying to shout those out. So we've been picking themes recently. I don't know if we're going to do that always, but it's kind of fun. Today we picked a theme. I should say Andy picked a theme. The theme is, what's the theme, Andy?
Sidekick,
which is a fun card. I think Winning Hand Podcast did a whole episode. We did an episode on it. I don't remember when it was.
It was a great episode. I enjoyed listening to all of it.
Thanks. If you're watching this, you probably already know that exists. But if you don't, I have a podcast and a YouTube channel. Check it out. It's over there. If you are watching this for the first time or listening to this for the first time, I should say we talk about these decks. We categorize them into three different categories: the Spike, the Timmy, and the Johnny, which is ways archetypes of card game players. We broke it all down in the first episode a lot, so go check that out if you want to hear the full description. But it's kind of like Spike is the efficiency player, Johnny's the combo player, and Timmy's the big money player. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
Okay, that's kind of it. If you want further descriptions, again, episode 1 and 2, we really broke it down for like half an hour. We don't need to get into it every time. So we're going to talk about these. We're going to categorize them, tell you about what kind of player count we like, and break down some cards, some tweaks we might make, some things we enjoyed about it, and we hope you like the series. That's it. Let's get right into it. Andy, you are going first today. I went first in the last episode, so you are going first this time, and I'm going to share your deck, and then why don't you please tell the people about it?
Yeah, this deck is Drax Tank and Spank with Mantis Sidekick Healer. Quite a mouthful.
Say that again?
Yeah.
Did I hear you right?
You heard me right. It is called Drax Tank and Spank with Mantis Sidekick Healer. Clearly, it's the Sidekick Healer that got you to chuckle, right?
I'm a child. Yes, that's why I'm laughing.
So this is a Drax Sidekick deck, and when Sidekick first got announced, I remember like everyone was kind of talking about, this person, and for some reason, Drax really didn't get talked about. Like everyone thought Black Cat because she doesn't take consequential damage. People thought Cable from Deadpool's pack because he has he can get up to a +3/+3. But Mantis is such a great target for Drax with Sidekick. And so this deck is looking to get Mantis out turn 1 through one of two ways: either mulligan for a suit up or get Mantis and play outright. And so the beautiful part about doing a Sidekick, especially when your identity-specific ally only costs 2, is that means that you can, without a resource card, get that Sidekick and that ally out right then. Once you have the suit up, you play 2, you play suit up, so you lost 3 cards, you still have 3 in hand. You grab Mantis and you grab Sidekick. You spend 2 of that 3 to get Mantis out, and then you spend 1 to get Sidekick out, and you're ready to go. You found a way on turn 1. And Mantis is a powerful ally because for her, while she is a 2-cost Guardian wild resourced, she has a 2 thwart, 1 attack, and that is 1 consequential on the thwart, 2 consequential on the attack. But that action, exhaust Mantis and deal 1 damage to her, heal 3 damage from an identity. She is a table healer, but 3 is nice. Yeah. And then you're adding in the 2 extra health. You, like, Drax wants to tank. He just wants to take the hits from the villain to get up those counters. And then even crazier, side by side, lets you ready them both. And you get to heal again. And oh man, this deck I love. I think it is a very powerful deck.
Yeah, I will say Sidekick is not one I thought about with Drax. Like you said,
No.
there was a few that popped in my head immediately. For me, it's Vivian came in my head right away.
Yeah.
It wasn't Drax, but now that I'm looking at it, right, the way you described it, being able to play it on turn 1 potentially, and side by side being able to heal one from both, or ready them and give them +1/+1 till the end of the turn. The healing is great, right, for Mantis, but also Drax wants to hit, so giving him +1/+1, that's crazy good. It's till the end of the phase, so he might ready up and do it multiple times anyway.
Yeah.
A ton of value there. I think being able to kind of boost her up, right? Inspired and reinforced suit. I don't know how many times you're using her activation, but you potentially could with this. This is a fun little build, and I quite like it.
Yeah. Like with Mantis, you can store up the comms implant, like you said, the reinforced suit. So now she thwarts for 3, and once again, a 3 thwart in Marvel Champions, especially in solo, is a
Drax.
nice level.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So and with the fact that they went for 3 on things, so 3 limitless staminas, 3 side by sides, 3 suit ups, 3 command teams. This deck is meant to be consistent. Like you will probably always get the same outcome, however you play it.
Which, if we're categorizing it, then what would we call this deck?
I think we call this deck the Spike deck.
Yeah, pretty clearly, I think.
Like, oh yeah, fully is ready to go. Turn 1, consistent, powerful. It's a Spike deck.
Would you change anything about this deck? Anything that sticks out to you that you would tweak?
So no, I think this deck is actually pretty great as is. When I was playing it, I got confused by Inspired because I was like, why would this be here? But then I got forced to flip down from my obligation because I didn't want to get stunned. And I had a suit up, and I realized that Inspired is a target with Nick Fury or Professor X. And so if you want to play suit up and you want to be able to grab both sides of the card, Inspired works for both of them. But that was the only one that when I drew it was like, why do I really want to play this? Because I'm never really wanting Mantis to attack. But realizing that it's your way to grab and have an extra resource to pay for Professor X or Nick Fury was actually a pretty great call.
Yeah, for me, what sticks out at first glance is the first aid. I feel like that might be too much for me. 3 copies of it too.
That's a lot of healing.
That's a lot of healing. I feel like you're already able to heal, using side by side a little bit, and of course, Mantis's whole thing really is to be able to heal. Unless this deck is planning to really use her activations, but I think that's more of a situational thing. It's really, I think, designed around her healing. I might cut first aid and put something else in there. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that would be. He mentions they mention a sideboard here of CITT, Power on All of Us, Power of Leadership, Innovation, and Gamora. I'd be tempted to maybe take first aid out in favor of Gamora or CITT or something.
Yeah.
Or the Power of Leadership, right, to help pay for those command teams, help pay for those side-by-sides. That's kind of right away, I thought. That just seems like too much healing to me, but...
Yeah. And it's definitely a fair point of... I know in my playthrough, I used 1 or 2 to heal Mantis when I got a little thwart crazy with her. But I do agree with you of 3 is definitely a lot to be able to... Like, I agree with you. If side-by-side heals... I don't know that you really need first aid. And CITT for an extra activation with Drax when he's at his +4 attack because of his knife. Or maybe it's his other knife. One of his knives gives him +1 attack. But whichever knife that is, giving him an extra ready for 2 resources, that's pretty great.
So good. Yeah. I think this is really fun, and it kind of makes me want to tank and spank.
Yeah.
I'm a child. It kind of makes me want to try this deck. This is Phantom Samurai. Rob is the deck builder, and we just kind of wanted to shout them out. We will leave a comment on your deck if by chance you're listening to this. If, as I suspect you're probably not, we will just leave a comment to when this post to let you know that we did review your deck. I don't know if we reviewed it. I guess we just talked about it, but it's a cool deck and it's a cool idea, and Would you say this is a solo deck, or would you say this is a multiplayer deck?
So, this is, I think this is primarily a solo deck in terms of you have the tools you need to thrive in solo efficiently. Multiplayer in leadership is always a tougher one for me because when I think of a leadership player, I think of someone who's ready to fill in the gaps of where things go wrong on the table. And you may not always have what you need because this deck is literally you tanking and spanking. And so that can be a little bit tougher in multiplayer where the number of things that could go wrong increases a lot. But I will say, like, you can definitely take this in multiplayer and still do great, and everyone's gonna love how you're going to be ripping into the villain like none other. So don't be afraid to take this to a multiplayer, but the tools are definitely meant to solve efficiently in solo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too critical of Drax, but I often find with Drax to the table, he feels like a very siloed character. Like, he's not often interacting with everybody else.
Yeah.
It's rare that I find a Drax deck or a Drax player who's like covering any shortcomings you may have. Like, oh, we didn't, there's a little bit of thwart we got to hit here. Nope, That's not my job. Or like, we got a little bit of this. Nope, that's not my job. And part of that comes from my podcast co-host, Lazy Titan. Drax is his favorite character, and he plays him very like, I just fight and attack all the time, which is thematic, and I kind of feel like what Drax is built for. But he doesn't. Yeah. I did see from Astrodar, who is on Discord, and I know builds decks too. He built a Drax deck, or he had one cooking for a while around defending for other people and making Drax the target of an attack. I don't know if you ever published it, but if you're listening to this, Astrodar, maybe you are. Drop a link in the comment or let me know. I'll share your deck out. But I remember hearing that idea and thinking it was cool. Yeah. But most of these Drax players, I feel like, are just very siloed, like kind of doing their own thing. It's a very self-contained hero kit. It kind of works with itself and doesn't really engage other people a lot.
Yeah, that's very fair. And this is very much that way. Like, I think the one last call I'll say on the deck that in case someone wants to play it, that I'd noticed, and this definitely leads into that Spike part. Nothing feels worse with Professor X and Nick Fury than playing them and not using up as much of their health as possible. You'll notice Command Team is there so that you get both 3 thwarts from Professor X. And Drax really doesn't want to defend, so go ahead. Use all of your command teams on getting Professor X or getting Nick Fury to use all of their activations.
First thwart, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
9 thwart from command team. That's
a lot. Well, listeners, viewers, let me know what you think about this one. Drop a comment down below. Did you like this deck? Have you played this deck? Have you ever thought about building a Drax Sidekick deck?
Have you tanked and spanked?
Have you now? Watch yourself. I got to keep this guy under control. No, this is cool. This is one I might actually try. I've been enjoying some Drax recently, so maybe I'll give it a shot. All right.
Sounds great. What'd you bring?
Well, before I get to what I bring, I just remind everybody, if you are not subscribed to this beautiful thing we're doing, please subscribe and like this if you enjoy this comment. It only takes you half a second to click that thumbs up, but it does do a lot for us. Leave a comment down below. I'm happy to respond to those. I always do. Andy also responds to some of them, so if you want to talk to Andy, drop something in there too, or hit us up on Discord. Our names are the same as they are there. So check us out, do all that kind of stuff. Now, let me tell you about my deck. I brought a deck, another one. See, I thought I was going to be the unique one who was sharing a deck with a sidekick that I hadn't thought of before. Like, I hadn't seen this ally use a sidekick before. And I brought Wasp because I think I have been on the record saying, because I've been on Villain Theory's series about every hero's worst cards, and I'm pretty sure I specifically called out this ally as her worst card, and I stand by that. But here we are. This is called Wasp and Ant-Man with a Great Equalizer, and it says in parentheses, fixed. I will say that I originally commented on the deck when I found it. It's kind of an older deck, and then as a result of the comment that I left, this user, his name is Starlord XX, he chose to kind of republish the deck with a few changes, some updated cards. So this is the most recent version, but you can see the older one if you like. So this is built around putting in Ant-Man. the signature ally, right, Scott Lang, and putting him into play. He is a 4-cost ally, so it's pretty expensive. But he is 2 attack, 2 thwart with 3 health, and he says, while you are in giant hero form, Ant-Man gains the giant trait and gets +1 attack. While you're in the tiny hero form, Ant-Man gains the tiny trait and gets +1 thwart. So he is expensive to play, and 4-cost allies are always just like kind of tricky. But if you get him out and keep him there, he could actually be pretty solid. And this deck is built around using, you're going to use Suit Up to get him out. You're going to use Sidekick to keep him there. You're going to use side by side, the same as the Mantis deck, to, ready your Sidekick and your hero, and then heal one from both of them, boost your character, and then a whole bunch of attachments, right? Power Gloves, Inspired, Reinforced Suit, Sky Cycle, Sidearm. Really, it's like a Voltron Ant-Man deck, which I don't think I've seen before.
Mm-mm.
It also uses Target Practice, which is a card that I kind of have a soft spot for because I think it's a cool card. It reads like an event, but it is actually a support, 0-cost support, and it says interrupt when an ally with a weapon attachment upgrade makes an attack, discard Target Practice, and that ally gets +2 attack for that attack. So obviously we have Sidearm in here, which is a weapon. So you're going to do a ton of damage, potentially. Power Gloves are going to do extra damage. He's boosted stats. Target Practice is going to hit for more. That's really cool. So I think this is a fun deck to put Ant-Man into play and really let him do a lot of work. And I think that's cool because Wasp is kind of a middling hero in terms of power and definitely has some shortcomings that need to be boosted. And I think this deck really does that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Andy?
I like it. Ant-Man is a great target. I know he is expensive, so that is kind of a tough pill to swallow, but it's definitely worth it because to have a 3 attack or 3, and then like you said, the Voltroning of it, but then the fact that you can use his activations a little more freely because Wasp is going to go down to her alter ego a little bit more than some of these other heroes because her ability is so strong. And then I actually didn't catch this until you were calling it out, but Target Practice is a mental resource. Yeah. So once you're done using it, once you've discarded the support, you can shuffle that thing back in with her ability and be ready to use it again.
Like, and it is not one per player. So you could have potentially all 3 of them in play, discard all 3 of them, give +6 attack, right? He could potentially do a ton of damage. Yeah. And then flip down and shuffle him back in, like you said.
That's a 12 damage from one go, just of Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's insane.
Yeah.
There's a lot of setup involved, but it's really good. Squared Off can help us pay for him because there's 1 copy of Squared Off in here, which is cool. And of course, since you're Voltroning your signature ally, Swarm Tactics is always there to be played. So that's their team up card, which is a hero action, 1 cost, change to your other hero form and ready your hero. I don't know how good that really is, but you might as well play it since they're both in play.
Yeah, it's a free change in terms of hero form. Like that's not too bad.
What would you anything you would change about this deck here?
So that's a good question because there's just 1 copy of Suit Up. So, we aren't trying to force a turn 1 Ant-Man necessarily. I don't know that's going to help you as much. It is nice in that you can use it each time you go down to, when you get it, to be able to grab the next thing you want to Voltron Ant-Man with. Yeah. But since it's not mental, it means that you're having to wait for it. So I think to some degree, I don't know that I would have the Suit Up. I'd probably exchange it for a Squared Off because you do have some great allies. And as you had called out earlier, that Squared Off with White Tiger, real nice because it's free card draw.
Yeah.
So, and a 2/2 ally at that.
Yeah. I think I might drop another Call for Aid in here. I mentioned that in a previous deck, but I might put Call for Aid it grabs you an ally. It may not be Ant-Man, but it might be the other Ant-Man or it might be one of the other ones. It puts 1 into hand if you don't get 1 out of your mulligan. I think that might be solid. I agree. I think Suit Up is tricky in this deck, especially with only 1 copy. I might go the other direction though and put more copies of Suit Up in here. Wasp, the way I play Wasp, it's one that I like to flip down with a lot to shuffle things in. Now this doesn't have a ton of mental resources to shuffle in, other than that target practice, which is great. Squirrel Girl, another target though. So you're gonna be shuffling those things back in, and I really think Suit Up can help grab the next thing you need for Ant-Man. And you know, I guess you could put it on something else too, right? If you don't find Ant-Man, but you get Captain America into play earlier, or White Tiger, you could drop Power Gloves on it. You know, you could drop Inspired on it.
Yeah, who doesn't want a more inspired Captain America? I do hear he's low on inspiration, but like, I think that's a great, man. You can have a strong ally.
Mighty Avengers is in there, which is expensive, but really does a lot of work. The other thing I might think about is Avengers Tower. I think that might be a good include here. With all Avengers, right? This increasing your ally limit, which isn't super important, but it just makes the next one a little bit cheaper. Either that or team building exercise. I feel like one of those would be maybe a good shout here. She generally struggles for resources, so having access to Ingenuity, having access to Quinn Carrier, having access to Avengers Tower, team building exercise, and not seeing any of those here is a little surprising. I would definitely
it does have clarity of purpose, which
it does,
which is a good one. I mean, she's not very healthful, but you're right that some more to help her out would be real nice.
I just feel like Ingenuity is another good one, right? Just a cheap mental resource you can generate each turn for 2 cost. Team building exercise works a lot of stuff here. So yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I definitely think it's really a shame that many of her events are not traded. You know, like they're not traded
like
with Giant Tiny.
Were...
Like rapid growth is traded with Giant, so you can potentially team building exercise could potentially help pay for it. But I wish the other ones were too. But
agreed.
Yeah, overall, I think this is a really solid deck. He does say, or they do say, squeezing in Triskelion or Strength in Numbers might work for this deck. And if they're already thinking about Triskelion, then I might again say Avengers Tower as a good call out here, because it kind of does the same thing, but also gives you a discount on the next Avenger, and all of them are Avengers. So that might be something I'd push to include.
Yeah, I like it.
Voltron Ant-Man, though, that's not something you see every day, huh?
No, absolutely not. I usually try to squash ants, so to like give them a sidearm seems scary.
When I see them in the house, I'm not Voltroning them, I'll tell you that much.
No.
So when you look at this deck, would we call this a Spike, a Johnny, or a Timmy? I think it's pretty clear, right?
Well, now I'm nervous of which one I'm going to say. So,
I mean, a Voltron deck, isn't that always a Johnny? I don't know.
Okay, so that is okay. Good. I'm glad. I was like, I don't know. Is it a Timmy thing? Because you're just like one big. But you're right. You're right that this is the combos are all around. Like this is all around combos. Like the Johnny is straight up on a Voltron. I'm definitely with you on that. As much as like the moment you said that, I had that guttural like. But what if
am I wrong? The teacher just called on me.
Right.
Oh no.
No!
Did I read the book?
Oh no!
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely am with you. I think this is a Johnny deck.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is pretty clear, like 100% Johnny. But let us know if people disagree. You know, let us know down below. Happy to engage in debate. Would you see this as a multiplayer deck or as a solo deck? Or what player count in multiplayer, I should say.
Yeah, that is true, because multiplayer 2-player and multiplayer 4-player feel very different.
Yeah, different games.
Some of it is, I feel less guilty only having 2 copies of Skilled Investigator in a 2-player game than in a 4-player game, you know?
Someone's not getting one.
Right. I don't want to have to be the one who says you're not worthy of being a Skilled Investigator.
You got to barter. You got to barter. You know, when I'm playing the Con of Heroes at a 4-player game, I have a Skilled Investigator here. Who is giving me their Helicarrier this turn? And if you're giving me a Helicarrier, we're talking about Skilled Investigator. We're trading. Yes. We're bartering. We're making deals. Just saying.
I love that. I'm gonna hold on to that tip. So I definitely think this is really good in both 1 and 2 player, and some of that is Wasp's kit is more of an all around kit. But honestly, with the allies and just kind of the way it works out, I think you could take this up to 4 player and still be successful, because Ant-Man is so versatile in terms of like when you Voltron him into what he can help do. So I think you can take this up to 4 if you were to, and depending on who you're playing with, you may want to bring in a couple of extra power gloves or inspireds to toss to other allies around the board.
Yeah. I mean, inspired is a great one too, right?
Yeah.
Power gloves are restricted to Avenger allies, so depending on who you're playing with at the table. But things like inspired are great. Like if I build a Voltron deck, I will often include multiple copies because other people at the table, like it costs you 1 to just drop it on someone's ally.
Yeah.
You're going to get value off of that pretty much no matter what.
Yeah.
So, no, I like that Sky Cycle's in here too. This is just like a fun, basic kind of Voltron build, but with a hero I've not seen it before. So I like this a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I think any player count, but you'll see it be real successful in 1 and 2.
Yeah, agreed. I think what I will say, solo can be tough to get some of these heavy combo decks to work, in my experience.
Yeah,
because you just have to manage a lot of other things while you're doing it. It's often easier with other people at the table to kind of give you a little hand. It's like, I can't really thwart this turn because I'm waiting on my thing, and I don't want to use an activation of Ant-Man right now because he's not his full potential, and it can be trickier, I think, at lower player counts, but it definitely is viable.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you everyone for watching this episode. We had a great time talking about these 2 decks. I will put links to them down below in the description if you're on YouTube, or it will be in the show notes if you're listening to this on audio. If you enjoyed watching or listening, it really would help a lot. It only takes like 4 seconds for you to click like or click subscribe if you want to get more of this content on whatever platform you're on, whether that's YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you'll see us again next week for another episode. And leave some decks down below. Like email me, winninghandpodcast@gmail.com, or leave some deck name. And now you can put links in YouTube, but put a description down below and name the deck and the name of the deck builder, and I'll search it out. But we're looking for cool ideas. We want to hear about some cool decks you guys have seen.
Yeah.
Including if it's yours. That's fine too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I every time someone's suggested a deck, I have a list in my notes, so I just keep adding them there so that I can check them out. And so it definitely matters. We definitely see those and read those.
I love that. Let's give Andy more homework. So, put some more decks down there, and let's give Andy more to do.
Absolutely.
So he can earn his keep here. But thanks for joining us, Andy. It was great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Real super fun series. I'm really, really enjoying this. So I'm glad we're doing it. And I hope everyone likes watching it. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.